All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Doing that thing you do, breaking my heart into a million pieces, like you always do. And you don't mean to be cruel, you never even knew about the heartache I've been going through. Well, I tried to forget you, girl, but it's just so hard to do. Every time you do that thing you do.
And welcome to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and for the next 4 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality most of the time. And we come to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern. Then the show's repeated in its entirety from 2 a.m. until 6 a.m. right here on the all-new X Zone Broadcast Network and the Talkstar Radio Network. Toll-free worldwide, our number is 1-800-610-7035. That is worldwide and toll-free at 1-800-610-7035. My email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, you can always chat with us here in our studios by typing in the MSN Messenger address, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. Once again, that's xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website's www.xzoneradiotv.com. And if you'd like to listen and watch the X Zone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year, www.xzonetv.com. By the way, we are on a new network in Europe, and we're so happy we're getting so many more visitors from the European Union, and I'd like to say hello to each and every one of them. Because what happens is, every night from midnight until 4 o'clock in the morning, the show that we start broadcasting at 10 o'clock at night, Eastern, is then put up onto the European server, and Europe loves the X Zone. So, exciting times here in the X Zone, and it's these exciting times that we are so happy to share with the world, especially when we get a guest like my next guest, my first guest for this evening. Her name is Sylvia Anthony. And X Zone Nation, I'd like you to meet Sylvia Anthony, and we're going to be following her trials, her triumphs, and her successes. And she's got a new memoir out entitled Sylvia's Haven, named after the nonprofit organization Sylvia founded for the poor, homeless, and abused women and children. Sylvia's Havens serves as a testimony of her faith, her life, and efforts to help others. Beginning with her birth in 1929 and continuing to the present day, Sylvia Anthony recounts a painful childhood, divorce, and the struggle she faces and faced as a single mother. Joining me now from Revere, Massachusetts, is Sylvia Anthony. And Sylvia, welcome to the X Zone.
Thank you so much.
It's a great pleasure having you with us, Sylvia. And what prompted you to write your book?
Well, a lot of people knew what I was going through, some of my trials, I would say, and they said, Sylvia, you should write a book. Well, I thought about it a while, and when things got real bad, I figured it's time to write the book. And that's what I did.
God bless you. Now, you received a commendation from President George Bush going back to 2002. What was that like?
What was that, what?
What was it like receiving a commendation from President Bush?
It was very surprising. I didn't expect it. I don't know where he got it from, but I certainly did appreciate it. So we have it framed up here in the office.
Sylvia, you and I have to take a commercial break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Exo Nation, Sylvia Anthony is my very special guest, and she is truly a lady who deserves the recognition that she has received over the years. She's helped countless people, and we're going to be talking about Sylvia and her book as this Exxon starts for today, Thursday, January the 21st in the year 2010. Her website is www.sylviashaven.org. That's www.sylviashaven.org. The people of Haiti still need your help, Exo Nation, and as you know, we support the Red Cross, whether it's the Canadian Red Cross or the American Red Cross. If you can, go into your wallets, give what you can, and here are the websites, www.redcross.org, that's for the American Red Cross, and www.redcross.ca for the Canadian Red Cross. I know times are hard, and if you can't give, there is something that you can give that they also need, and that's your prayers. My name is Rob McConnell. This is The Exxon. Sylvia Anthony is my very special guest this hour. www.sylviashaven.org. We'll both be back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break as The Exxon continues, live and around the world from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the all-new Exxon Broadcast Network and Talkstar Radio Network. Welcome back, everyone. Sylvia Anthony is my special guest. Her website is www.sylviashaven.org. That's www.sylviashaven.org. Now, Sylvia's Haven candidly details the abuse Sylvia witnessed and was subjected to growing up. She married at age 18, and this is a quote, "This would prove to be a terrible mistake," she admits. Having been taught that a person should only be married once, she stayed married for more than 12 years before divorcing. 10 years later, she remarried to a man named Rick, and her life changed dramatically. Sylvia experienced what she calls a miraculous intervention after a near-fatal car accident, and she and Rick became born-again Christians. Together, they were finally able to achieve her dream of opening up a shelter for women and children, and the author of Sylvia's Haven is with us this hour, Sylvia Anthony. Sylvia, great talking to you. And what was what made you decide to write your biography?
Well, like I said, I honestly felt that it would be something that people would like to hear, and I not only that, but I felt that if I had a book, that it would help me raise funds for the organization, which I needed desperately. Hello?
Yeah,
Are you there?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am, dear. I'm listening to you.
So that is why I wrote it, primarily because I wanted to tell the world about what can happen when you're trying to run an organization like mine, but also in order to raise funds to support the Haven, because we do have a lot of problems in this time, these trying times.
Now, how many years have you been operating your shelter for the homeless women and children?
On January 25th, it'll be 23 years. I was 57 when I started.
What keeps you going at the spry age of 80? God
keeps me going. But not only that, the Trials and tribulations are bad, but let me tell you, the rewards are far, far greater. This is the only job I ever had that I actually enjoyed. I enjoy coming to work every day and doing everything I can, whereas in the business world and offices and whatnot, it was a drudge. This I don't feel is a drudge at all. This I really and truly enjoy.
How many people would you approximate have passed through your shelter doors?
1,034.
God bless them all. Now, what is the average length of stay with you at Sylvia's Haven?
Well, I've always put it at 2 years, but it depends on the location at the time. Right now, I would say the average is about 8-9 months.
Do the families who pass through your doors and who you help keep in touch with you after they leave?
Yes, some do. A lot of them don't, because I find that especially if the girls leave and get married, that at some point in time, even though they keep in touch with me, their husbands kind of seem to resent it and say, well, look, you've got a new life now, let it go. But there are those that do keep in touch, and they are so precious. I had a grandmother write me this Christmas to tell me of her granddaughter who was born here and is now going to her 4th year of college, I believe, and she's studying to be a lawyer. I had another girl write about her son who was born in my place, and he's going to Amherst College in Massachusetts right now. I at church had an experience that was strange but beautiful. My pastor wanted me to talk and tell the people what I was doing. And at the time, he allowed me 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Well, in 10 minutes, I like to talk. It was difficult to finish, so he waved to me, and I said to them, look, if anybody is there that wants to know more, I'll be at the back of the church. Well, I never got to the back of the church. There was a woman in the front row, and she called me over, and she had a 13-year-old boy there. And she says, this is my grandson, Sylvia, but he was born in your shelter.
How many children have?
I've lived long enough now to see the fruits, and God has given me a great, great privilege. I see that boy now every single Sunday, and the first month after he knew, he came up to me and said, Sylvia, I don't remember when I was born, but I want to thank you for your hospitality. Well, let me tell you, that just broke me up. Now he's in the church band, and he plays the guitar, and he's growing up to be such a magnificent boy. And these are the treasures that I treasure.
You know, Sylvia, if anyone ever doubts the existence of angels, I'm going to send them to your website. Because you...
Did anyone what?
I said, if anyone ever disputes the fact that angels are real, I'm going to send them to your website.
No, nobody I think does. I haven't ever come across anybody that did.
Well, I think you're an angel.
Oh, well. No, I'm just doing what God leads me to do. I don't consider it any great feat at all, because if it weren't for God, I wouldn't be doing it.
You see, that's what makes you so special, Sylvia, is because you don't see it as a great feat, and yet those looking in from the outside realize the great work that you're doing.
Well, to me, it's just a day. It isn't even a day's work. It's a day's pleasure. Not only do I work at 9 o'clock till 4, but I work at home in the night. I work in the home in the morning, doing things that have to be done for the office, because I love it. And I wouldn't want to do anything else. And this is what keeps me alive and going.
Tell me, Sylvia, what are some of the hardships you have endured in operating your shelter, Sylvia's Haven?
What I found was when I began this nonprofit, I did it to get out of the business world. I worked in offices. I saw the greed. I saw the way some people work to get your job and things like that. And I thought, well, gee, if I do this nonprofit, I'll be sheltered from that. I'll be doing God's work. But no, the more you do, the more the devil wants to get to you. And I was back in 1992, I got a letter from the federal government telling me that there was a thing called the McKinney Act, which states that if a base closes down, that X amount of space had to be for the homeless. So there was a base in North Central Massachusetts called Fort Devens.
Mm-hmm.
They said it was. They wrote me this letter telling me it was closing down, and that as a result, I would be eligible to be there since they need a group of homeless people. They gave me a list of all the buildings available, and they told me that all it was going to cost on a lease was $1 a year. I thought I died and went to heaven. I called up my lawyer right away. I read the letter to him, and it said, if you're interested, send us a letter of intent and a proposal, and if you want, after we receive it, within 30 days you'll have our reply. Well, I called up my lawyer, and they said, Ollie, look. And I read it, and he said, let's go for it, and he got it. I picked 50 townhouses that staff sergeants originally lived in. I picked it on 20.5 acres of land, and I picked the Post Chapel, which was worth $18 million.
Wow.
I got it. And I thought this was great. There's only one thing. When the government took the land, they took it not by eminent domain, but on a lease basis before World War I, so the lease wasn't much at all. And they said when they got through with it, they give it back to the towns. There were 4 towns involved, Ayr, Lancaster, Shirley, and Harvard. Now these 4 towns were going to get the land back, and they formed a housing alliance to meet every month to see what they were going to do. Well, when I got my approval, it was, they had asked me to join them, so that because I was a part of their community now, and I said sure, so I went. And the federal government told me and everybody else there was going to be a 3-year wait before the Army could leave. In that time, I just kept operating the house that I had, the one house that I had. About 1.5 years into it, we got notice that we were going to have a charrette. I didn't know what a charrette was, but it turned out to be sort of a town meeting with some guests. The guests was the what is called mass development, which is a part of the state. A separate entity, but it's still part of the state. They wanted the land. So they came in about 6 times within the 1.5 years, asking people to turn over the land to them so that they could turn it into a commerce center, make it help the people that were out of work, and so on and so forth.
Sylvia, please stand by. We've got to take a commercial break with the news. We'll be right back. Sylvia Anthony is my very special guest, Exo Nation. www.sylviashaven.org. That's www.sylviashaven.org. Sylvia and I return on the other side of the news as the X Zone continues. We're right here live and around the world from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the all-new X Zone Broadcast Network and Talkstar Radio. Don't go away.
My name is Michael Telstar, Canada's leading mentalist from Toronto, Ontario.
Hi, my name is Splinza, and you're listening to my dad, Ron McConnell, on the X-Zone.
This is Psychic Dorothy from St. Catharines, and you're listening to Rob McConnell. Hello, my name is Holly Reeves, an astrologer from Astro For You, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Future isn't just one night. It's written in the moonlight, painted on the stars. We can't change ours. Don't give up on us, babe.
Welcome back, everyone. Sylvia Anthony is our special guest. Her website is www.sylviashaven.org. That's www.sylviashaven.org. And Sylvia, it's a great pleasure having you with us. And before we went to the commercial break, you were telling us about a meeting that you were invited to and a group that was there that wanted the land. And can you continue your story, please?
Okay. So, anyway, they're at the end of the 3 years, they had a vote, the four towns. And the ones that were hurting outnumbered the wealthy ones, and the land was given to them. Now, I had been a real estate broker before that. So even though I didn't know the area, I knew good land. So when I picked the 20.5 acres there, I didn't know it, but I picked Harvard soil. Mm-hmm. Harvard was a very affluent town, is a very affluent town. The most expensive town in the group of four. Well, when Mass Development was given the land, came in and they looked around and, who is this on our land? Well, let me tell you, they weren't too happy. Like I say, even the chapel was on Harvard soil. That's why the worth was, for 5 acres of land of the chapel, was $18 million. Well, they had a meeting with me. And the first thing they said was that they wanted $56,000 security deposit.
Whoa.
Whoa is right. All I had was $5,000 in my name.
Oh,
and all I understood was that this was going to cost me $1 a year. So I was praying to God. I was saying to myself, "Dear God, you know I haven't got $56,000. Mm-hmm. What am I going to do?" So I did something very foolish, but it worked.
What did you do?
I got up. There was only 4 of us there. Their lawyer and their consultant, myself and my lawyer. I stood over the table and I looked them square in the eye, and I said, I don't know if you know it at all, but I'm of Italian descent, and what's worse, I'm Sicilian. You think I'm going to give you $56,000 for something that's supposed to cost me $1 a year? You're stark raving mad.
What did they do?
They stopped in their tracks. They stopped the meeting and they left. But the thing that got me is this. The lawyer was an elderly man, and he wasn't too shook up over it, or the consultant. But the lawyer had just got his degree. Mm-hmm. He just was put to the bar. And he looked at me, and he had this horrific look on his face, so much so that I was in bed, and I'm looking and I'm thinking about what happened, and all I could see is this horrific face, and I'm saying, why did he look like that? And suddenly something says to me, Sylvia, you said you were Sicilian. He probably thinks that you know somebody in the mafia. Well, at that, I almost died. I said, oh, my God, Well, anyway, the thing is this. They made my life miserable. Oh. They put restrictions on what I had to do to the property, and the Army gave it to me in perfect condition. they insisted I do this, I do that, I do this, I do that. The result being that after I had 40 of the 50 houses done and 10% of the other, it had costed me $800,000. It didn't cost me, it cost my donors. But you know, I raised every bit of it. All donations. No federal money, no state money, just donations. And I divided it in 4 phases. And every time I get through a phase, they were getting angrier and angrier and angrier. So finally, the end result was that after 9 years, it had to be after 5 years, they tried to evict me. The thing was in the court for 4 years. They couldn't move me. But the thing is this, to justify their money to get me out, they started a smear campaign in all the papers. They had a group of 6 women that they told them if they, number one, make a survey, see what, how I'm running the place, and they promised them that if I did leave, that they would take over and run my place for me. And, of course, if they're going to run the place and they want the job, they're not going to give a good report.
Of course not.
So, as a result, they took it to the local court, and I knew the judge. And he said, wait a minute, he says, who wrote this? And they says, we did. He says, aren't you the same people that are supposed to take her place if she gets out? And they said, yeah. He said, number one, this is a local court. The federal government gave her this, not I, not you people, not the state. And he said to me, it stinks to the high heaven, he says. I'm turning this to the federal court in Boston.
Wow.
And that's what he did. But in the meantime, though, he also, Mass Development had these girls come in once every 2 weeks, and I know this because of the deposition. And they had a stack about 8 inches high of papers that were supposed to be complaints from my girls against me. Not a one of them signed. They tried to get my girls to come in and testify against me. None of the girls would go. But nevertheless, this smear campaign, people hear these things in the paper, they believe it.
Mm-hmm.
They've hurt me so tremendously that my donor base went down to almost nothing from over 5,000 donations.
My God.
So that's where I am today, and that's probably one of the reasons why I wrote the book. But in the end, what happened was a representative came to my aid and started having legislation passed to have them accountable for every money they get and receive. He passed about 3 pieces of legislation against them until finally they went up to him and said, what do you want? He says, pay her off. So they gave me $650,000. In the market here in this area, it just buys a very nice house. One, and I had 50 of them.
So
but that's where I am now.
But what about the homeless? What about the ladies? What about their needs? What about all the great work that you've done?
What do you mean?
Well, what's happening with the homeless?
Now we're reduced to one family, one house. It holds 6 girls, and this is what we're doing. It's a beautiful house, but it can only hold 6, whereas before I had 40 houses operating at once, 40 families at a time. At the end, I was downsizing because I knew this was happening. It took 4 years, so I had only 15 families left, and they promised that they would keep them there until they left on their own. They didn't. They got them out. They put them in one building. They took away everything they had. They told them they had to get rid of all their furniture and everything. And by the way, when the people came in, because the people were so generous there, they would go into my donations. I had 10 of the houses empty, but filled with donations. They could pick all their furniture. They could pick all the linens, anything that they wanted, clothing, whatever. And when they left, at the end of the 2 years, they would take it all with them. I let them take it all with them. Here I can't do that. I haven't got the room for it.
Sylvia, because the initial deal was made with the federal government, isn't there anything that the federal government can do?
No, because you see, it was mass development who was given the land by the people who owned it. The people still owned it. Those 4 towns still owned it. And they're the ones that opted to give it to the state.
So even though the original deal was made with the federal government, the state had the authority to take it away?
Yes, because the people gave it over to them on that voting.
That sucks major.
Yeah, to say the least. So now I'm down to one house, beautiful house. I mean, it really is gorgeous. It was, when I bought it, it was only 13 years old, I believe. It was $415,000. I put in another $200,000 to fix it from a residential home to something that would be more serviceable for, in other words, adding more bathrooms and whatever to make it more serviceable as a home as a shelter. I landscaped it beautifully because I had been through this 100 times. And I knew that they would probably say, well, she's taken down our neighborhood. So I had the wooden fence in front of the house removed. I put up white brick wall. I put up white wrought iron railing all around it. It's absolutely gorgeous. I have white marble chips on the ground and only flowers. And in the back, it's the same way. It's absolutely gorgeous. But it's only one house.
Sylvia, what is the homeless situation like in Massachusetts?
Bad. It really is. I get about 3 calls a day for people who want to come in. I have enough people on my waiting list to start at least one more house. What am I going to do? I've only got just so much to work with.
Those 5,000 people that you had on your list who used to donate, what happened to them? Did they just decide, okay, that's it, I'm not going to donate or participate as a donate?
Well, they didn't always donate everything all at once. I never had them actively giving like every month or every week. But they would give from time to time. But a lot of them, some of them moved away. Others opted not to believe it and not to give. By the time I got in Revere where I am now, I would only have 5 loyal people giving me money once a month out of almost 5,000. Now my mailing list is, 4,800 or so. So we've lost a couple of hundred, and I give to the others, and they haven't said, don't put me. But lately, I went to my pastor in desperation, and I said, I don't know what to do. He says, well, Sylvia, number one, he says, I'm surprised. I didn't know you were having this trouble. He says, why don't you write to the people and tell them how bad it is so that they can help you? He says, I don't think anybody realizes you keep your mouth shut so nobody knows what's going on. So I did, and gradually people are coming back. But I still don't have enough to cover all the expenses. What I did was I put 25% down on the house, and I had after everything was done, $400,000, and I put it in securities. But that was back in September of '06. Because I didn't have the money to keep it going, I kept withdrawing the money. I'm down to $7,000 now.
You know, if the government can put so many billions of dollars into the auto industry, so many billions of dollars into the banks, so many billions of dollars into the insurance companies, why can't they help the people who need the help?
I can tell you one just now as a small example. I'm having trouble paying my fuel bill, and we have something here called CAPIC that helps people pay their fuel if they can't afford it. But the rules and regulations are so crazy that you have to have a baby under a year old to qualify. But babies after 1 year old, if they're 13 months old, nobody qualifies. I had that happen. I had one baby when I went in there that was 10 months old. As soon as it made a year old January 14th, I have the utility companies threatening to close me all over again. Why? A child 15 months old or 18 months old or 2 years old or anybody doesn't deserve heat if they're not under 1 years old?
There is something desperately wrong with this system.
Yeah, to say the least.
Sylvia, stand by. You and I have to take our final break for this hour, X-Zone Nation. Sylvia Anthony is my special guest, and as you can tell after listening to Sylvia for the last 40 minutes, she truly is an angel. Do me a favor, X-Zone Nation. Go to her website, www.sylviashaven.org. That's www.sylviashaven.org. Take a look. See what this lady has done. See what she's up against. Angels really do exist. And when you go to www.sylviashaven.org, you'll read about one. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with Sylvia Anthony as the X-Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the all-new X-Zone Broadcast Network and the Talkstar Radio Network. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com, and our two websites, www.xzoneradiotv.com and xzonetv.com. I'll be back on the other side of this break with Sylvia Anthony as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
Don't give up. Let there be peace on earth. Let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth. The peace that was meant to be. With God as our Father, brothers all are we. Let me walk with my brother in perfect harmony. Let peace.
X-Zone Nation, www.sylviashaven.org is the website to visit. Once again, www.sylviashaven.org. Sylvia Anthony is our very special guest. And in her book, Sylvia details the many aspects of founding and maintaining Life for the Little Ones, which changed its name to Sylvia's Haven, Inc. in 1994. Sylvia also shares the pain of losing her husband Rick to cancer just weeks after incorporating their shelter. Her friend Tony, a man she describes as love of my life, plays a very important role throughout the book. Today, at age 80, Sylvia Anthony still operates Sylvia's Haven, Inc., and to date has housed 1,034 women and children. For 23 years, she's devoted her life to helping those less fortunate and overcome numerous obstacles along the way. To this very day, X-Zone Nation, she still continues to work. Once again, to find out more about Sylvia Anthony and her unrelenting faith, inspiring life, and selfless charity in the pages of Sylvia's Haven, go to www.sylviashaven.com. Tell me, Sylvia, what is your final wish for the future of Sylvia's Haven?
Well, I wish that we can get over this financial burden that we have, that we get enough money so that I don't know how long I'm going to live. Mm-hmm. From the looks of it, it can't be much longer. I don't know, but I doubt it. But I certainly would like to have the people and the money and the wherewithal to have this thing running long after I'm gone. That's my wish.
Sylvia, we want to thank you ever so much for joining us tonight here on the X-Zone. It's been an extreme pleasure and honor talking to you. And I wish you much success, continued health, And God bless you for doing the wonderful things that you do.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to have you have me on your show. I appreciate it tremendously.
Sylvia, let our listeners know where they can get a copy of your book, or if they'd like to call up with a contribution or a donation, how can they do that?
Well, they can call. The telephone number here is 781-284-0560. The address is 474 Revere Beach Boulevard, Suite 1004, Revere, Massachusetts, 02151. And they will see all of that on the website. That's how they can send in the donations. They can ask for the book through me. I have some over here. And if not, they can go to places like Barnes & Noble. They would have to order it, but it's available through TV. It's available just about everywhere.
Sylvia Anthony, thank you very much for joining us here on the X Zone. We'll keep in touch, and if there's anything we can do to help you, just get a hold of me. Sylvia Anthony's been our special guest to this hour, X Zone Nation. www.sylviashaven.org. That's www.sylviashaven.org. Coming up next, we're going to be speaking to Craig Grothy about dreams that warn you about your future. All this and more as the X Zone continues live and around the world from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the all-new X Zone Broadcast Network and Talkstar Radio Network.